work together 4-1 has us going through and preparing a chart of accounts and opening an account. And now let me tell you, on your test for this chapter, they're going to have you go through and prepare a chart of accounts, but you're only going to do this type of assignment once for this chapter. So it's not something that gets practiced a lot through our application problems, but I'm letting you know now. Make sure before we take the test on this chapter, you go through and review how to prepare a chart of accounts, because that's going to be one of the spots that people lose some points. Okay, so our forms are given, and what we have to do is instruction number 1 says prepare a chart of accounts, arrange accounts payable and accounts receivable in alphabetical order. Also, arrange expense accounts alphabetical order and use a 3-digit account number, and the accounts are divisions by 10. That's a lot of fancy information, but we'll go through and start from there. So when we have a chart of accounts, we have 2 distinct sides. It's not debit and it's not credit. They are balance sheet. It's going to be on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side is going to be your income statement accounts. So your balance sheet accounts are going to be your assets, your liabilities, and your owner's equity. Those are going to be the accounts that you must balance. Your income statement accounts are going to be your revenue and your expenses. So if you remember that we have 2 sides, just like when we went through and created those fictitious types of businesses that they all flow together, that's what we'll do. On the very top here, we have to go through and put in the name of our business. And the name of our business is Ross Company. Left-hand side, on the very top line, we're going to put in our heading of balance sheet accounts. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and put in income statement accounts. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to do all of my balance sheet accounts. I'm not going to go back and forth. I'm going to stick right here on the left-hand side. So, balance sheet accounts. The first, we have to put our classification headings down of assets, liabilities, owner's equity. So I'm going to go ahead and put assets. Sorry, my phone keeps binging. I didn't turn it off. So in order for us to put assets down, we have to put in our account number that is associated with it. And all asset accounts are going to be 100, so I'm going to do left parenthesis 100, and then put in the word assets, because that's just going to remind us that all asset accounts are starting with 100. Now, when we go through and determine our numbers for our assets, here's where we get a little bit tricky, because they give us right here all of our accounts that we are going to be using for Ross Company. We have to be able to look at them and then identify which are assets, which are liabilities, and which are owner's equity. Now, your assets are going to be listed in order of liquidity. Okay, well, when you hear the word liquidity, what do you think of? Liquid, okay? So order of liquidity would mean that we have to go through and put in here the asset that is most easily turned into cash first, the one that is hardest to turn into cash last. So which account is easiest to turn into cash? Cash, yes. Okay, so don't type it in yet. So cash would be our first account. Now here's the thing. When we're creating our chart of accounts, we don't know. Maybe 10 years from now, there's going to be another type of account we need to add. So right now, they told us we're using a 3-digit account number, so all of our numbers are going to be in the hundreds. And then they told us to go through and put in our accounts by divisions of 10. So if I started my first account at 100, that really locks me in, and I don't really have any opportunity to add something else possibly before it. So I'm not going to start at 100, but I can start at 110. That way, if something happens, I have room to put something possibly before it. Maybe they have to add additional type of cash account to it, and then they could use that number between 100 to 110 to put it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start with 110, and then I'm going to put in my account cash. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I have to look here, and I have to figure out which account is next most easily turned into cash. So it's not miscellaneous expense or assurance expense or Clara Ross drawing because those aren't there. So we have to know here which one's there. So we have cash, supplies, prepaid insurance, and 2 accounts receivable accounts. Would you agree? Okay. So which one can I get cash from the fastest? Yes, because if I went to my customer and I said, hey, you have to pay me money, they should, right? Now, here's the thing. We have 2 accounts receivable accounts. We have accounts receivable Tyler Link, and we have accounts receivable Megan Alvarez. Who comes first? Why? So we're going to list it by alphabetical order, and Alvarez comes before Link. So I'm going to go ahead and put in here 120, because we're going to go by divisions of 2, accounts receivable, Megan Alvarez. Now, we have another accounts receivable account, and that's going to be 130, accounts receivable, Tyler Link. So I just took care of cash, my 2 accounts receivable, and how many more asset accounts do I have? Supplies and prepaid insurance, agreed? Which one's easier to turn into cash, supplies or prepaid insurance? It is, and if you type in a number, it's going to tell you that. I realize that it is easy for you to figure out, but you are not going to be able to do that all the time, so it's important for you to know the reason why. So we're going to do 140 is going to be supplies, and then 150 is going to be prepaid insurance. Any other assets? No. What are my other 2 classifications that go on my balance sheet? Assets, liabilities, owner's equity. So I'm done with my assets, so I have to put in parentheses 200 for liabilities. Now, my liabilities are easy to identify because they always have what word in it? Payable. So I have 2 accounts here. Now, I want you to notice that my payable accounts, my liabilities, are names of businesses. Names of businesses get alphabetized by the first important word. So, for example, I would never alphabetize by the Don's Quality Market. I would alphabetize by Don's Quality Market. Don's doesn't really have the word the in there. That's just my example. So when I take a look at my 2 liability accounts, I have Sure Supply and Mid-City Supplies. Which one's coming first? Mid-City. So my first account number is going to be 210, and that's going to be Mid-City Supplies. And then I'm going to do 220, and that is going to be Sure Supplies. Any other liabilities? Nope. Lincoln? Skip. All of my liabilities are done. Now I have to go ahead and do all of my owner's equity. Now, there are 2 owner's equity accounts, okay? I said originally that drawing is a contra owner's equity account. I will let you know capital is always going to go first. So I'm going to do 310, and I'm going to do Clara Ross capital. Then I'm going to do 320 and do Clara Ross drawing. That is my whole balance sheet account. All of those accounts are needed in order for me to go through and prove that my accounting equation is in balance. Now when I'm going to jump to the right-hand side, I have my income statement accounts. The first one I'm going to have is going to be parentheses 400, and that is going to be my revenue. How many revenue accounts do we have? And what is it? Sales. That's going to be 410, sales. Then I have to go through and do my expenses. What order do I put my expenses in? Alphabetical, correct? So you have to go through and look at all of your expenses and figure out alphabetically which one comes first. Did we find one that's going to go first? Automobile expense is going to go first. 520 is going to be, okay, now, I don't want you to freak out right now, because have we seen that account title insurance expense before? Okay, do not record transactions using insurance expense. We use insurance expense just as a way to keep track of what we use up. So anytime you buy insurance, still use prepaid insurance, do not use insurance expense, okay? 530 is going to be what one? Miscellaneous. 540, rent. 550, supplies. Same thing for supplies expense. When you buy supplies, do not record it using the account title supplies expense. Still use the account of supplies. We only use that account at the end of the fiscal year to record what we have used up. Okay? So that is instruction number 1. Congratulations, you just prepared a chart of accounts. So now what happens at the start of every business, they have to prepare a chart of accounts. They make the chart of accounts and then they go about running and operating their business. Now let's pretend that Ross Company has been in operation for a year and a half now. And as they were going through and working, they realized they have 2 types of classifications that they want to use. What's happening is they realize they're putting a lot of things into miscellaneous expense, and having a large number in miscellaneous expense is going to be very difficult because you can't really make decisions. If you had $10,000 in miscellaneous expenses, that tell you what it went to? No. So in our directions here, they said, let's add 2 new expenses. We're going to add postage expense and utilities expense to our chart of accounts. You never do it at the same time that you create a chart of accounts, but that's what we're doing just in the assignment. You were going to assume that we're going to go through and be in operation for a while. So the first thing you'd have to do is you would open up your chart of accounts, and then on the bottom, you would go through and add your new accounts. You don't want to put it on the top because if someone goes through and looks to see at year 2, how come you didn't have anything in postage expense, they could see, oh, these are accounts that were added after in the business. So they might not have as much longitudinal or length of time that the business has been open information about what happened with postage and utility. So we're going to go on the very bottom of our chart of accounts. And we are going to create some additional accounts that would go with it. And we're going to go ahead and put account number on the left-hand side and account title on the right-hand side. Now, which account did it tell us to make first, postage or utilities? Postage. So I'm actually going to start over here on the right, and I'm going to put in postage expense. Now, I need to figure out the number for postage expense. How will I know that? It's an expense, so it's going to start with a 5. Would you agree? Now, expenses are listed in what order? Alphabetical. So where does postage expense fit in our expenses? Between miscellaneous and rent, would you agree? Now, we're not going to go 531. Where are we going to go? 35. So we're going to give postage expense the account number of 535. So I'm going to do the same thing for utilities. Now, what is my account title for or account number for utilities expense? What's that? It's alphabetical order. Where's it going to come? At the end, after supplies. And we don't want to jump right away to 555 because why would we? We can jump it to 60. So yes, we're going to go with 560. So that's how you add new accounts. And the last thing we're going to do is instruction number 3. Use an accounting form, open the account of cash. This by far is the easiest part of this assignment. Are you ready? To open an account, you write the account title on the left-hand side where it says account. Got it? Then, on the right-hand side, you put in the account number, and the account number for cash is 110. That is instruction number 3. Check answer. Booyah! We're on fire. Woo! Try that on your own, please.